Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cyberproof Your Virtual Environments with Rubrik and Nutanix. Today's webinar is sponsored by Rubrik and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Keith Ward. I'm with Actual Tech Media, as you might have guessed by now, and I'm so excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's content, though, we do have a few housekeeping items you need to know about that'll help you get the most out of this session. First of all, we want this to be an informative event for you, so we encourage any questions in the questions box in your webinar control panel, or just log on and say hi. We enjoy seeing where all of you are logging in from. We've had a whole bunch of you already doing that. Keep those coming. Now, at the end of this presentation, I'll be asking our two experts today some of the top questions that come in as well. So keep your questions for them flowing also. Now, that Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be experiencing. First thing you want to do when that happens is a browser refresh. That'll fix most everything that goes wrong. If that doesn't work, let us know in the Q&A and we will get on it. All right, next up. Next to that questions tab, you will find the handouts tab. Now in there, you'll find a number of outstanding resources, including 3 white papers from Rubrik and Nutanix that you really should download now. Great resources, lots of good information in those. Now that handout section also has a link to the Gorilla Guide Book Club, where you can get access to our vast library of printed resources on a host of technology topics. That's also the place to find the ATM Events Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events, including a few that just may interest you. Check them out and sign up today if you see something that you like. All right, finally, at the end of this webinar event today, we will be awarding a $250 Amazon gift card to one of you who has registered. Now, remember that you have to be in attendance during the entire event to qualify for the prize. If you want to check out the terms and conditions of the prize, you can also find those in the handout section. All right, and that dispenses with that. Let's get right into it. Joining me today are 2 expert presenters. First of all, we have got Shane Allen, a platform security architect from Rubrik, and he is going to be joined by Dan Angst, a sales director of emerging products from Nutanix. And as I mentioned before, I will be coming back on and joining them toward the end to answer some of your top questions. So with all that said, let's get to it. Shane, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Keith, for the introduction. Hi, I'm Shane, and I'm joined by Dan from Nutanix. We're going to talk about cyber-proofing your virtual environments with Rubrik and Nutanix, and how Rubrik can provide the big red easy button when it comes to a cyber recovery. Quick agenda, we'll focus on what we hear from customers for current pain and challenges they're trying to solve for, and we'll wrap up with a brief demo of Nutanix AHV-VMs within the Rubrik Security Cloud. Safe harbor statement, some of the things we're talking about are not GA, but they will be shortly. While this isn't in any specific order, we're starting to hear more and more about the first point. We've always had concerns and threats within the guest operating system with things like WannaCry, Ryuk, and SamSam ransomware variants. But more recent threat is targeting hypervisor hosts directly and encrypting the virtual machine disk files. As most companies are highly virtualized these days, you can imagine how quickly a large percentage of your infrastructure could be encrypted and brought offline. The challenge of cyber recovery versus traditional recovery. With traditional recovery, you should normally know what you're trying to recover. You have server A, and you want to recover it from yesterday. With cyber recovery, you generally don't know all the systems you need to recover, nor to what point in time you need to recover from. Beyond the security aspect, complexity of the solution is another challenge, and it goes hand in hand with scalability. What does my initial footprint look like to manage on a day-to-day basis? How different or difficult is it to manage all the different aspects of a solution? Data protection, data security, data observability, and can it easily expand as my company grows in 1, 3, or 5 years and beyond? Lastly, compliance. Infrastructure may not be limited to simply what's in your data center or your co-location facility. These days, you may have workloads in the public cloud. Maybe you're leveraging software as a service email with Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace is a great example here. How do you ensure that across all your different workloads, you're protecting across all these different environments that you're compliant with in your business objectives for those recovery points? You have to be right every single time, but the attacker only has to be right once. When that attack happens, you generally have two options. You can pay the criminals, or you can recover from backups. And the attackers know your options as well, which is why they go after your data. In addition to the backup copies, their efforts are always focused on increasing their chances of a payday. A typical backup infrastructure, especially a more legacy backup infrastructure, may look like this. But it's generally not designed for an attacker behind the firewall. Lots of different pieces or servers. There are often open network protocols that may be running on top of Windows. Does it support the use of time-based one-time passwords or MFA? If you have data in the cloud, your challenges may only become more complex. Cloud doesn't necessarily solve operational challenges. It puts a magnifying glass on them. I would think we all would agree that for end-to-end cybersecurity, we need to have infrastructure security. If you have a house, you need to close your windows and lock your doors. And to be clear, Rubrik isn't replacing anything in your infrastructure stack. What we are saying that if all your lines of defense fail, then Rubrik is going to help you understand and recover by providing data security. As we mentioned before, the challenges the businesses face when it comes to preventing and defending attacks is that you have to be right every single time. The attacker only has to be right once. Rubrik provides that data security with the Rubrik Security Cloud, and we feel we're in a unique spot protecting all of our customers' data. And when we launched one of our first data security product modules 6 years ago, it resonated so well that we won the Gold Award at a prominent industry convention in the security category. All these components that you see on the screen are Rubrik built and developed. We don't agree with the approach of bolting on third-party integrations from a store or a container registry that would end up having privileged access on the system. We prefer to control the integration and maintain our zero trust first principles throughout. Now, let me pass this off to Dan, and he will talk about how the Nutanix platform security features for stronger cyber resilience.
Hey, thanks, Shane. This is Dan Unks with Nutanix. We boast cyber resilience to securely run your apps and data anywhere. It's simply what we do. So cyber resilience starts with one platform. And like Shane said, you do have to secure the platform. And that's really what we're going to talk about with our partnership with Rubrik. We're securing the platform. Then for a really secure backup, we hand it off to Rubrik, a really trusted partner. So with Rubrik and Nutanix, we can be confident that we have a secure hybrid multi-cloud that runs anywhere 24/7 securely, and we can recover from any disaster, even ransomware. So where do we start? With the top 5 key security features. So first, strong cyber resilience requires a solid foundation. So let's look at that solid foundation. With all the global certifications, government certifications, information security frameworks, but really, what's really become the worldwide de facto standard is the NIST frameworks, the NIST Cybersecurity Framework and ZTA, the NIST Zero Trust Architecture. So this is where we have that solid foundation with the Nutanix Cloud Platform, or should I say the secure Nutanix Cloud Platform. So let's dispel some myths of data encryption. This is our first of the 5 myths we're going to dispel. So protect data with data at rest encryption across all your clouds. Myth number 1, enabling data encryption is too disruptive for performance. Encrypting data is only for certain industries, not ours. Data encryption? You mean managing keys? No way. So it's really easy with Nutanix and data encryption. Sure, we support Nutanix nodes for external key management and SEDs, but that comes, it's pretty expensive, and there's a lot of things added management. Or Nutanix nodes with external key management and software encryption. That becomes a lot better, especially for cost savings, but we still have that external key management. Then we can do Nutanix nodes with external key management, software encryption, and SEDs. So you get the best of both worlds to protect dual protection, but still we have that external key management. And the one I like the most simple and the most cost effective is Nutanix nodes with Key management systems that is native built into the Nutanix cloud platform with software encryption. Nutanix makes it easy so you can move between them and really pick the best one for you. So let's dispel the myths of platform security visibility. Monitor, track, understand key security features with the Prism Security Dashboard. This is built into Prism Central. I cannot automate my platform security hardening. Myth number 2, platform hardening is too intrusive and causes issues. Myth number 3, there's no way for you to measure KPIs from a security standpoint. So Nutanix plus this platform security visibility built in to the Prism Security Dashboard. So we get detailed security posture summaries. So we can quickly identify the CVEs. Enabled security at a glance. So we can customize the security focus and get info on what's critical to my environment or your environment for a security posture. And vulnerability analysis and recommendations. So view and understand and track security gaps. This is protecting that foundation, protecting our platform. Let's dispel myth number 3, myths of cloud virtualization and security. So we want to leverage Nutanix AHV as our hypervisor and ensure you're running workloads securely. So myth number 1, not all my hardware has required security components. Unless required, we don't update VM tools because it's insecure, too hard. That's myth number 2. And myth number 3, we don't see a way to secure a VM's guest OS. So let's look at this. In cloud virtualization with AHV, we want to run VMs with cryptographic confidence. So we can replace and signed OSs with our guest OS boot secure, and then create a virtual vault without new hardware. So we can store encrypted functions and keys, including Microsoft Credential Guard and BitLocker. Remember, this is required by Windows 11. And then secure NGT or Nutanix guest tools. So we can tunnel communication through virtual serial ports rather than having to open a TCP hole through our firewall to so it eliminates those having to open those ports for Nutanix guest tools. Let's dispel myth number 4, application security. Here we have Nutanix Flow for microsegmentation and Nutanix virtual networking. These features provide networking security and visibility for all workloads. Myth number 1, SDN is too big of a lift to implement for our apps. It's cumbersome, it's big, and it's intrusive. Myth number 2, there's no way to effectively implement microsegmentation. Myth number 3, networking has nothing to do with app security. So Nutanix plus application security. Let's visualize and discover apps with Nutanix Security Central, and it alerts you to vulnerabilities in your VMs and planning for microsegmentation with visual network designs. It actually gives you a suggested security posture for those VMs that you can then implement. It's that easy. Reduce your blast radius. So with Flow Network Security and VPCs, we simply create a policy-based microsegmentation between your apps, between the app level, between the database level, between the web level. Software-defined networking, or SDN, without any headaches. Flow Virtual Networking enables cloud-like networking access, or VPCs, anywhere, on-prem or out in the cloud. And then build those zero trust foundations. Enable zero trust segmentation and reduce risk through controlled access of apps and data. Let's dispel the last myth. Myths to enable data security and visibility. This is where we really work hand in hand with Rubrik. Fight ransomware and get control over all your data with Nutanix Data Lens. Myth number 1, our unstructured data is too vast for effective governance. Myth number 2, databases are VMs and it's too painful to update all of them. Myth number 3, our users are everywhere and we can't prevent data first ransomware. Well, with Nutanix plus data security and visibility with Nutanix Data Lens, we can analyze what is stored, how it is consumed, and how it grows over time. With anomaly detection with Data Lens, we define and detect usage anomalies and receive alerts when they happen before we do a snapshot or go to backup. And audit trails to easily search and filter who accessed what files and when. With ransomware protection, we detect and block known patterns through behavioral analysis with over 5,000 signatures, and then data age analytics. So tier, analyze, and find frequent, infrequent, rarely accessed data to lower object store costs and put it out into the cloud. Put it out to AWS Blob. Put it out to Wasabi. Use it. One thing I'd also like to say is that we have a promotion going on with Data Lens right now for all Nutanix customers using unified storage, either files, objects, or unified storage SKUs. It is free for 1 year. So that's right. It's free for 1 year, both the normal and the ransomware features. So cyber resilience starts with one platform, the Nutanix Secure Cloud Platform. And then when we want to do our secure backups, we do that with Rubrik. So we can run a hybrid multi-cloud securely that runs anywhere in any cloud 24/7. I'll hand it back over to Shane. There you go, Shane.
Thank you, Dan. Now let's talk about how Rubrik meets today's challenges for enterprises built on Nutanix Enterprise Cloud Platform. Whether it's cyber recovery or traditional infrastructure recovery time objectives are critical. Rubrik has worked hard to consistently build upon the successes of our initial offering almost 10 years ago. When you're running Nutanix AHVMs or any other workload in your data center, we will have a consistent UI and management for those objects, as well as scalable and predictable recovery performance. Also, quality of life improvements. We have a maniacal focus on making the data protection lives of our customers as easily as possible. Support for Nutanix Prism Central for Nutanix Cluster and AHV VM discovery, and Rubrik SLA assignments to Nutanix Prism Central categories or tags. We also have things like excluding temporary data to save on overall space in the solution, and the ability to define what happens before and after snapshot takes place. A common use case here is for some type of freeze-thaw operation with the actual snapshot happening in the middle. And when you need to recover, performance will matter, and we focus on near zero RTOs with the Nutanix AHV VM live mounts. We also offer increased security or isolation of your AHV backup traffic with our support for Nutanix segmented iSCSI data services networks. Along with many other workloads, Nutanix AHVMs are protected by Rubrik and are monitored for ransomware and sensitive data. Ransomware events can be viewed as the cause of a financially motivated malware attack with a sudden data loss effect. Rubrik ransomware monitoring is laser focused on the effect aspect. This typically challenges organizations with how to define the blast radius on a per object and file level and categorically remediate the data loss. Less data equals faster restores. With Rubrik Ransomware Monitoring, we help organizations answer questions like this. Assuming a widespread ransomware infection, how do you determine which systems, drives, files, etc. make up the applications that are down? How would you determine the last point in time they were unencrypted? Once the information is gathered, how do you feed the details into your data protection solution for recovery? What would it look like for 50, 75, 80% of your systems if they were affected? Rubrik Sensitive Data Discovery eliminates manual tagging or annual cleanups. It uses predefined policies or build your own templates to get automatically alerted on violations. It helps to identify potential violations of internal compliance policies by identifying where sensitive data is located and who has access to it. And all of this is done without causing any production impact to mitigate any risk. Rubrik Sensitive Data Discovery leverages your existing Rubrik deployments, which help users get up and running in just a few minutes with zero additional infrastructure. It also helps drive consistent, repeatable processes and ensures continuous monitoring of the location of sensitive data to facilitate compliance with applicable privacy laws such as GDPR and CCPA. And in the event of a ransomware event where data was encrypted and deleted, it can help with identifying any sensitive data that may have been compromised or exfiltrated. Our primary focus when the company started was to address the fragmentation we saw within the market. If you think back 8 to 10 years ago, data protection was a sprawling mess, and for some, it is still today. There are a lot of different vendors and components in data protection solution. You might have tapes along with the library. You likely have storage if you allocate it out for storing the backups. And the data protection software itself, in which may have a catalog server, a media agent, an indexing server, a web server for the UI, a workflow server, a compliance search server, an analytics server, a proxy machine, agents. You get the idea. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of OS level updates to maintain underneath. So our initial offering was to converge all these components, not only converge, but to ensure we had redundancy throughout the stack. Rubrik is a true scale-out architecture. The benefit of converging all these components together was a security posture that we're able to improve because of it. We have an in-house, purpose-built file system that doesn't sit on your network. It isn't a storage platform with SMB or NFS share that's open up to other systems. We have built on that foundation of zero trust data security and ensured that we have remained in the visionary quadrant. And this has led us to expanding not only to cover your on-premise workloads, but also your cloud-based workloads, IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. While doing that, we are staying true to our roots of simplified data protection. The same policy can be applied across all these workloads. Along the way, we found ourselves assisting in more recovery scenarios where the customer had been impacted by ransomware. Our platform was perfect for ensuring that data could be recovered. We also realized that we had an opportunity to expand our value. If you think of traditional backup environment, you might have backups running overnight, and the bulk of the system might sit idle throughout the day. Since we have all that backup data, our thought was, why not add additional value from services that could run on the cluster, especially during times when the system would be idle anyways? And so our first offering was ransomware monitoring and investigation. We use this tool to detect when the event happened and allow the customer to quickly recover to the point they needed. The building on top of our secure immutable file system at a high level, this tool works by detecting the encryption event itself. But a common question here is, what about the ransomware if it sits idle for a period of time? That's where our threat hunting component comes into play. We try to identify the ransomware that was found, and from there we can leverage industry standard YAR rules, a file hash, or whatever is appropriate to scan the entire environment and to find the proverbial needle in a haystack. This we will hone in on, not only where it originated, but more importantly, when and from where we know the clean copy to recover from. Lastly, another tool we've added is the ability to search for sensitive data. Here we can look for PII, PCI, CCPA, and other commonly defined data types, as well as the ability to search for custom data and find entries like an employee number or perhaps invoice numbers. And since this is running on the data we're already storing, it's easily as enabling a radio button to turn it on. There's no software to deploy, no architecture to think about or anything like that. And because it's so easy, we often see customers try it out. And on one or more occasions, we found some customers that were a little surprised about some of the sensitive data sitting where it probably shouldn't be. Rubrik Security Cloud is built on 3 core pillars. The first is data resilience. And this is where we provide a bulletproof solution on top of that zero trust design. This is key, as a common question we hear from CIOs and CISOs is, during the time of a crisis, do I have the ability to recover my data? There's a lot of nuance to this question because data immutability has become a popular buzzword. Most vendors at this point are saying they support it, but data immutability by itself is not enough. We worked with a current Now customer that had a different data protection solution at the time that supported data immutability. They felt like they had the box checked, and in that time of need, they'd be able to recover successfully. What they found out was the attacker used NTP poisoning and fast-forwarded the clocks in their systems. That triggered the expiration of all the data that was at this time now beyond the retention that was considered for, and they lost all copies within their backup repository. That particular vendor functioned exactly as it should if it was configured for 30 days of retention, and the attacker moved the clock forward 45 days, all those backups were expired, and they should have been deleted. Rubrik has a few solutions to counter this attack. One is that we leverage a monotonic clock within each system. So This is a hardware-based timer that is used in conjunction with system time. And if the system time is advanced, but the monotonic clock hasn't counted enough time, it will assume there's an issue that needs to be looked at instead of just expiring the data. The main takeaway here is that threat actors are going to continue to evolve, and we're committed to working hard to stay ahead of the curve and innovate as well. The second pillar is data observability. These are really the insights that we glean by understanding how the data has changed over time. And the last pillar is data remediation. This is about recovery, but not just ordinary data recovery, but also cyber recovery. This is the pillar that allows you to provide the confidence and predictability in your recovery. To run through how this works, regardless of the type of data you have in your private or public cloud, or it could even be SaaS applications like Microsoft 365, as we mentioned, we first provide an immutable air-gap copy that you may have heard referred to as a bunker in the box. Next, we build time-sensitive time series of your data. If you're taking a backup every hour, every day, every week, every month, we know exactly what is happening to the data over time with the metadata of that time series, and we feel it gives us a unique advantage to provide context to the data. It's important to know that we can protect your most critical workloads where they live. Unstructured or structured data, physical or virtual cloud, or on-premises or containers, we will protect it all under the Rubrik Security Cloud umbrella. At the same time, we are meeting our customers' recovery point objectives and recovery time objectives for restores. I'm going to hop on a brief demo now and show you some of the features I've just talked about. Starting with Rubrik Security Cloud, we're going to click on Inventory, and we're going to add the Prism Central to Rubrik Security Cloud. Easy as clicking on Setup, click on Manage Nutanix, and then add Prism Central. Here we'll specify the Prism Central IP address, username, password, and the TLS certificate for Prism Central. And we'll select the Rubrik cluster we're adding it to. Once you click Add, we'll discover the Prism Central, the clusters, and all the VMs. Click on View Nutanix VMs. You'll see you have a list of all the VMs. Click on Prism Central Clusters. You'll see the Prism Central instance and all the Nutanix clusters connected to it. Drilling in on the cluster, you'll see the Nutanix VMs. Same thing for the other cluster. You can also go back to the page for virtual machines and view all the virtual machines. Next, we will want to create an SLA domain or backup policy for the connected Nutanix resources. Click on Create. Select the object you want to protect. You can add other objects later. Click Next. And simply define declarative frequency and retention. For this demo, we'll do every 12 hours and keep it for 3 days. That's all you need to set up a backup policy. There's archiving options, replication options. Just give it a name and you're done. That is all it takes to create a Rubrik backup policy. Now let's assign that SLA domain to a Nutanix object. Click on Inventory. And as you can see, I can click on Prism Central and I could add that backup policy SLA domain to the entire Prism Central instance and everything underneath it. In this case, we're not going to do that. I also have the ability to assign the backup policy at a Nutanix cluster level, protecting everything on that cluster with the same policy if I wanted to do that. Again, for this demonstration, we're not going to do that. You can click back on the Nutanix virtual machines, and you can select several different virtual machines and assign the same policy to it. And for this demo, we're not going to do that. But here's what we are going to do. We're going to search for the name of a virtual machine. In this case, it's called Jan Windows. And And we're going to click on the Jam Windows, and we're going to directly assign the backup policy to this object. And as you can see, the SLA domain goes from no SLA domain to a direct assignment of the SLA domain. If we click on the object name, it'll take us to the Rubrik Security Cloud page for that object. It'll show us the protection, SLA domain assigned, and the object details, capacity of the object. We also have the ability to exclude disk and or set up pre and post scripts for that object if we need to. We can manage the protection from the object page, changing the SLA. And we can also take on-demand snapshots of any object from the object page. Clicking on events here takes you to a filtered events just for that object. And as you can see, we have a new event where we've started the on-demand snapshot. For recovery operations, select the date and a time you want to recover from. Click on Recover. And we have different recovery options. So we can recover files from the indexed backup. All you have to do is search for the files. You don't have to browse for them. So in this case, I'll type in /etc/host, and Rubrik Security Cloud will come up with a path. And now you have options. I can recover to a separate folder, or I can overwrite the original, or in this case, we'll just download it to the browser. Quick and easy recovery of files that are automatically indexed after the backup is taken. No additional jobs needed for that. To do image level recoveries, again, click on the date and time, click on Recover, and select Live Mount. With Nutanix, we have two options, Live Mount with optional migration and Live Mount without migration. In this case, we use Live Mount with optional migration. Click Next, select the Nutanix cluster you want to mount the virtual machine to. You can give it a unique name, or we'll append a date timestamp the original name. Click Next. You can select the network to connect it to. In this case, we'll just remove all the network devices from the virtual machine before we live mount it to the Nutanix cluster. And then click Next. Select the storage for optional migration. Here, we're not going to choose Migrate immediately. And click Mount. And Rubrik Security Cloud will instantiate a copy of the virtual machine back to the Nutanix cluster that you specified in the workflow. Clicking on Events, you can watch the actual live mount process. And here we see the different steps taken by the Rubrik Security Cloud to mount that virtual machine. If you click on Live Mounts, Rubrik Security Cloud will list all the live mounts, and here you can interact with the live mounts where you have the option to unmount, power off, or migrate the data store. In this case, we're not going to migrate the data store. Back to Prism Central, we can just search for the name of the virtual machine. We'll select the one with the appended date timestamp. And as you can see, the description is the VM created by Rubrik mount job, and now the network adapter is equal 0. Here we can click on the console, issue a Control-Alt-Delete, and now we're able to interact with the virtual machine live mounted by Rubrik back to the Nutanix cluster. To remove the live mount, go back to the live mounts page, click on the ellipsis, and click Unmount. And Rubrik will unmount the virtual machine from the Nutanix cluster. That's simple. Now, what happens if the Nutanix virtual machines you are protecting with the Rubrik Security Cloud have an anomalous event? Well, through our ransomware monitoring, we would surface that event on our ransomware monitoring dashboard. You can easily see the number of objects that were affected. Clicking on Investigate will take you to the list of those objects and show you the suspicious files, deleted files, added files for that object. If you click on the name of the object, we'll take you to a summary page. It'll show you the anomaly details, the suspected ransomware strain, recent suspicious files you can actually download for forensics. For here, we'll actually download the ransomware note, so we can pass it off to our security team and let them take action on it. We will also show you an event timeline of the anomalous event, give you an activity graph over time, and allow you to recover the full snapshot if you choose to do so. And it's easy by clicking on Recover Full Snapshot. We'll automatically select the non-anomalous snapshots. However, you can change this if necessary. Hit Next, and you're presented with the same quick image level recovery options. Clicking on Browse takes you actually to the file structure for that anomalous snapshot. You click on the C drive here, click inside File Shares, We can select any one of the folders with sensitive data in it, and you can see that we have information that was deleted and encrypted. And if you click in View and Data Discovery, it will take you to the sensitive data discovery page for the object and show you what type of sensitive data was in that file that was deleted and encrypted. You can drill into the actual file, see the sensitive data count, and actually see the classification for that sensitive data. What policies has sensitive data in it? This will be useful in a ransomware event, being able to identify which sensitive information may have been compromised and exfiltrated, and who has to be notified post-event about possible sensitive data being leaked. Setting up sensitive data discovery for Nutanix AH VMs in Rubrik Security Cloud is very simple. Click on Management, and we have over 60 predefined analyzers that make up different policies. Once you have the policies defined, you click Assign Policies, select the policies you want to search for, and this happens after every backup job of every Nutanix AHV VM. Click Next. Select the Nutanix AH VMs to protect the Rubrik Security Cloud. And click Next. That's it, simple. Now, how do we find what caused that anomalous event? That's easy. Go back to ransomware monitoring. Let's click on Investigations, and now let's click on Threat Hunts. Using industry standard YARA rule definitions or file hashes, in this case we'll use YARA rule, select the cluster and the virtual machine, and we can easily search for the indicators of compromise that may have infected this virtual machine. So find the virtual machine, click Next, give it a name for the threat hunt, and with Rubrik, you can do a custom time range searching across the history of the snapshots for that virtual machine. Not searching production, but searching the backup history for the indicators of compromise for that affected virtual machine. Here we're just selecting the date and times we want to search from, and then we'll just click Next. We'll set the parameters for the threat hunt. In this case, it's a very small file I'm looking for, so I'll set it down to 10 kilobytes to 7 kilobytes, and that's it. Rubrik Security Cloud will now start that threat hunt and look at all the snapshots we selected across that time range. If you click back here on Events, you'll see the event pop up here, and as you can watch the progress, we're looking across every one of those different snapshots. Once it's complete, you can go back to the ransomware monitoring page, click back on Investigations, and click on Threat Hunts. Click on the threat hunt we did before, and you can see, we see the IOC matches. We can download a CSV file of this information, hand it off our SecOps team for further evaluation. And here we can see how many snapshots we scanned. And if we click on parameters, we can see the overall time it took to scan those backups for those indicators of compromise. And from the Rubrik Security Cloud protecting Nutanix AHV VMs, we can tell you if there's any anomalous event, what was affected, the blast radius, what was in the data, and also what indicators of compromise may have affected those virtual machines, allowing you to do a clean recovery of an unaffected snapshot, getting your production up and running very quickly. Hopefully that demo gave you a sense of the benefits of Rubrik Security Cloud Platform's competence in being able to recover your data with our zero trust platform, simplicity of our SLAs, our backup policies, and the ease at which we can apply them across your environment. The ability to not only have a disaster recovery plan, but to test it on a regular basis, knowing exactly when to recover from a cyber event. Lastly, leveraging existing investments if appropriate for your data protection and storage, as well as data observability. We have a few takeaways within the event that you'll be able to review. And Keith, I see there are some questions in the chat.
Yeah, absolutely. Some really good questions coming in. So if you and Dan are ready, we will get to some of them. First off, Dan, it looks like this one is for you. What has to be deployed into the AHV environment to protect it with Rubrik? Or I guess I can throw it open to
that
either.
one's going to be for Shane.
All right.
That's right. Yeah, nothing has to be deployed inside your AHV environment. So we don't deploy proxies. All you have to do is, you saw in the demo, is provide a IP address or fully qualified domain name of a Prism Central, username, password, and a TLS certificate, and we're connecting to your AHV environment that way, but we don't have to deploy anything inside your AHV environment.
Doesn't get much easier than that, Shane.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
That is pretty simple. So a follow-up to that then, Shane, does this mean there are agents or no agents required for Rubrik's ransomware monitoring?
There are no agents. After every backup, we will index that file system and we'll watch the changes, any anomalous changes. So like files being added, deleted, modified, or the entry of those files, but we do that all without agents on the VMs.
All right. And that's more important than ever. It's pretty easy to get agent fatigue these days, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
That is for sure. Okay. Dan, here's one for you then. Does Nutanix support software data encryption?
Absolutely. In fact, we support both SEDs, or encrypted drives, and software encryption, and both external key management systems and our own native key management system.
Okay, great. All right, Shane, I think we've got time for one more question. This one is for you. Can we create custom sensitive data discovery analyzers?
Yes, you can. So we have over 60 analyzers built in the product, but you can easily create a dictionary or custom analyzer for any type of data you're looking for that resides on the data you're protecting with Rubrik.
Oh, great. Okay. All right. That is all the time we've got for questions right now. I want to thank you both for an outstanding presentation. This was really illuminating and informative, exactly the kind of thing that is needed nowadays, given all the threats that are out there. So, so Dan and Shane, thank you so much for your time today and for being here with us.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Keith.
All right, I hope you all enjoyed that presentation and Q&A. A lot of great information there, and judging from the questions that we have got, it's obvious that you were really captivated by the information, and it really struck a nerve and is something that so many of you are looking into and need help with, and both Rubrik and Nutanix are ready to help. Remember also that you've got that information in the handouts. You've got those white papers that you can download, and there's more in that to give you some guidance, and they are ready for you to reach out to them at any time on the websites and all the other ways that we have nowadays. So really good stuff here. We are nearing the end of the event today. We do have one more piece of business, as you can see up there, and that is the Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of the $250 Amazon gift card for this event is Scott Cook from Texas. Congratulations to you, Scott. We'll be in touch very soon to get you your card. And that is a wrap for us today, folks. On behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Rubrik and Nutanix for being on with us, for making this event possible. I want to thank all of you for being here, for all you attendees, for your great questions, and for your interest in the topic, and hope that everyone has a great day. This concludes everything. See you folks soon.